Take 3 Gen Xers, give them a topic about music, movies, pop culture, or whatever, and how it relates to them growing up in the 70s and 80s as part of Generation X. Add one person from another generation to see if there's any common ground, and you've got Solve for Gen X, starting now. We each have our own individual styles.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you and I have a style, and Ashley has a style.
Right.
You have a style which is being professional, and I have a style which is not.
But that in itself,
Matt loves it.
Your style. I do. It's great. I can't wait to hear what you have come up with.
Me too.
For this one.
Me too. So remind me what the title is exactly.
Okay, so the title is Looking Glass.
And what is the name of the show that we do?
Shut up.
Solve for Gen X.
It was the age of parachute pants.
Skinny ties, neon headbands.
We rode our bicycles helmet free.
A nicotine from a vending machine.
Decades, pastimes, memories, and masters song. Solve for Gen X. Solve for Gen X. Solve for Gen X. Solve for Gen X.
Hey, I'm Ashley Ward, Gen X 1972.
I'm Nate Starkey, Gen X 1971.
And I'm Matt Vogel, Gen X 1970.
Hey, before we launch in, something I learned that is unrelated to this topic, but related to our podcast in general, is that I didn't hear this before, but in between Boomer and Gen X is Generation Jones.
What?
I never heard this before.
I have never heard. And I don't think you could even find. Where did you find that?
On the
Was it on-
interweb.
There's all these weird things.
But I like it actually because it makes sense to me, because there is a generation of people who are 10 years older than us that aren't quite baby boomer yet, but don't feel super Gen X-y to me because they came of age in the 70s when we were still children. You know what I mean?
So wait,
And so they were born and they're not quite baby boomer because they've had television their whole lives. Right, baby boomers were born before television. They had kind of radio for their small childhood years, and then television was introduced in their lifetime. But there's this generation that's not quite us, that we're sort of it's like a Studio 54 kind of generation. That's not quite. It's not hippie. They weren't eligible to be drafted into NOM or anything like that.
Yeah,
that would be like my stepdad.
Exactly.
Would fall in that.
Exactly. 100%.
So if the baby boomers was the 40, the end of the war, right? 46.
Yeah.
To what? 60.
You're right.
65. I mean, that's
people came back from the war and had all these babies, right?
Okay. So these are
that's why they call it baby
babies.
boomer.
And are these the babies? These are the babies?
The baby boomers are the babies. The war babies.
Who's the Generation Jones? Where do they come in? Where?
Maybe during the Korean War.
Yeah,
maybe they're the
during-
Korean War babies.
Korean war babies.
Is that why it's called Generation Jones?
No, they were called Generation Jones because because it's like keeping up with the Joneses or jonesing for something they don't have, because they weren't quite given they were given the sort of the promise of what the baby boomers had. The baby boomers were sort of given everything.
Right,
This is the greatest generation, set up a perfect, they fought for a great world for them. Sort of, that's the idea, right? And then, so the Generation Jones is sort of coming off of that a little bit, but then came the 70s and all that idealism of their childhood sort of evaporated a little bit. So they kind of became Generation baby boomers have we wish we had what these other generations have. It tracks for me, knowing people in that generation. I thought it was interesting.
Now that's really I've never heard of that.
The other thing about them is they didn't have not the cynicism, but the skepticism that we sort of grew up with. I feel like we grew up nah, we know it's all a lie. And we sort of anticipate, that's sort of where our whatever comes from. I think they sort of grew up with this, things are great. And then things aren't great. And they're like, oh, man, we got ripped. We don't think we got ripped. We we knew this is the deal. This is the deal from the day we were born. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I thought it was interesting.
Back to the topic.
I'm sorry.
So for Gen X.
So we wanted to talk to somebody from another generation. So I asked my friend Carmen, who is a baby boomer. And so let's welcome my friend Carmen. Carmen, hello. How are you?
Hello.
This is my friends Ashley and Nate.
We know that you're a baby boomer, so I don't think it's impolite to ask what year were you born in?
That's what I was going to ask. When is the baby boomers start?
Well, we were sort of discussing this up top that maybe there's like a couple gap years between boomer and X where it's sort of like
because I'm old. I mean, I'm 1962.
62, so you might be in that gap a little bit.
Maybe. So
there's a thing called Generation Jones that I found out about.
It's called
Generation Jones or old?
No,
Jones.
But baby boomers started in like 1946, right after World War II, and then went to like
46
something or other.
And then like Generation X is like officially like what 67 or something like that, or
something like that.
Somewhere in there.
Something like
we're not really
65.
sure.
So I'm not in your generation, so I'll see you later.
No, that's why we want you.
No.
Why we want you.
We want your perspective.
That's right. Yeah. So Carmen, we're talking today about. The topic is looking glass. So it's kind of like what you thought that your grown-up life would be, when you were a kid, I guess, or growing up, and compared to what it is now. Like, did things line up? So, Nate or Ashley, do you have any questions? Because, I mean, you might be able to tell Carmen has a little bit of an accent. I don't know if you can tell.
Well, I'm from
I don't
Brooklyn.
hear accents.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Carmen, tell us where you're from.
So offended.
I thought so.
I'm from Mexico. I'm from Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I was born and raised there, and I came here when I was 27, and I used to go back and forth every 6 months, and then probably when I was 29, it's like just one or the other one, and I stayed for good.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's back up before that happened.
Yeah.
And when you were a little girl growing up in Mexico City, tell us a little bit about like what your life was like. Like, what kind of school did you go to, or your parents and your family, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you guys are going to be shocked.
Why? What?
Because it was so different. And I think the generation thing here comes in a way, and in Mexico, that you're probably going to think, I mean, I grew up in a wonderful family, I have a lot of relatives, and my parents were like social butterflies, so there was always friends and family in my house. But they were very Catholic, traditional. I saw my future because all the women and all the men did the same things, went to the same schools. Catholic only girls' school for me, that when my mother, my cousins, my grandma, for generations. My brother was the same. So I could see my future.
As a part of that future, was there an occupation that future led to? Not just Catholic school, but was there also?
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, but that's the thing. My occupation that I saw was to be a wife and a mom.
Okay.
And I knew exactly what I didn't want to be. I mean, of course, I wanted it to be a mom someday if that happened, but it was not my focus in life at all.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be? Did you have any ideas?
Yeah.
No, I just knew what I didn't want to be.
So
I was trying to stay away from that.
So were there any women in your family or in your orbit who were in the workforce as adults, not just wives and mothers?
No.
Wow.
Well, my mom, they all were academic. They all went to school, and a lot of them, they graduated from college, but they stayed at home bringing up their kids. So that is okay, I have full respect on that, and that's actually it's a big job. But that was not for me. And
let me ask, is that
Yeah.
was that just specific to your experience, or was that pretty much the norm in Mexico City at that time where you grew up?
That was the norm where my circle was. You know. Yeah, my friends from school. I went with the same girls from first grade. 12 years after, I still with the same group of 39 girls. They're my sisters. And they were brilliant. They were mathematicians, architects, engineers. And they went to school and everything, but they, they went home.
But they didn't do that? None of them, no architects, no mathematicians, they all just became...
This was in the 70s when you came of age in the 70s.
Yes, we graduated in 81, I think, from... I started college, 81. So I think all my friends graduated in 83, 84, but some of them finished college already pregnant and married, and they were 20-something, and I just...
But so you went to college?
Just 1 year, yes.
Okay. And did you have even a focus of study when you went to college?
I did, but it was not my priority, really. I was more physical. I like sports. That for a woman in Mexico, that was not even, Thank God I had a school that, because we were a good team, they put money on it, and we got a good coach, and we moved to...
What was the sport?
Soccer?
Volleyball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There was no kind of sports like here in my school.
Yeah.
I mean,
were you a really good volleyball player?
Yeah. Actually, they scouted our team, and we started training with college girls, and then they scouted the team that we were playing in college. I was not in college; I was in high school, but we were training with them, and they scouted us for a team that we were supposed to be going to the Pan Americans. That is the games. Yeah. But I got injured, so.
Oh.
But the thing is that I did that with not a lot of... My parents supported me, but I didn't have any friends, any relatives or anything that I did that. I just did that because I was just, into something different than everybody else.
Where'd you go from there then? Was there any hope of were there professional volleyball players in Mexico City or Olympics or?
You know what? They were starting to do teams like beach volleybable is starting to be very big. And I started playing, but it was just for fun. Nothing to make a team. But it was really funny. I just remembering a picture of my family in a Christmas, and we were 60 people in the picture, and you can see I wish I could, I don't know where it is, but everybody's very formal, and I am there in the corner with Olivia Newton-John's short hair, let's get physical, with my sweatshirt, with my shoulder, and I'm standing there with a very goofy face, and everybody's like this, and you can see what I'm talking about.
Please text Matt a picture of that.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yes, completely.
Yeah. So if you didn't go to college, then what were you doing? Did they expect you to get a job?
You were looking for a husband? You knew you didn't want that.
Yeah. No, I was having fun. I was curious. I wanted it to travel. And I remember what I say 1 year of college, you have to understand the years in Mexico. We have our last year of what it is here, high school. We have one more year. That is your first year in college where you decide what you're going to do. That we have it before we go to college. And then I didn't know what it was going to be my story. All my friends, they were off to college, and I was going to go off to Canada to learn English. And I had already, I was admitted in a school in Canada, in British Columbia, and another school in England. But at the same time, my brother told me, hey, listen, there's these Americans coming to Mexico to train people for some TV shows to learn how to perform puppets like the Muppets.
Wow.
So you want to come and see that? And I'm like, sure. And I went, and it changed my life.
Wow. Very cool.
Because it was physical, it was with music, and it was challenging, so very challenging.
Wait, so I know when I travel to Mexico, granted I'm going to mostly touristy areas and stuff, everyone speaks English. Was that not true then? Or were you the part of Mexico you're from, or?
No. I did speak English a little bit. You take it in school and all that, but have you ever? I don't know. I think it's different, and I noticed that when I came here and you live in the country, and you have to communicate, and the everyday slang and the everyday modismos. ¿Cómo se dice modismos? It's not slang. It's the
idioms.
Idioms. Thank you. Yes.
Ashley was going to be a foreign language instructor at one point.
No.
she and a psychic, because she read my mind.
And a psychic.
So no, when I came here, it was really difficult. Even to order breakfast, I think I have the same thing for years.
You knew how to say.
I don't know. I remember. You say, okay, some eggs. How do you like your eggs? Eggs? So then they say, okay, scramble? Yes, scramble. And then you get bored of scrambled, and then you try to figure out how else you can say, sunny side up and all those different things that you have. It was so difficult.
So many different kinds of huevos.
Sí, exactamente.
Your brother kind of encouraged you, wanted to know if you want to go kind of learn about how to do puppets. We kind of glossed over that a little bit.
Yeah.
You were interested in that. You were interested in that doing
Yes. Well, first of all, the Americans wanted to see if I understood some English, and I did a little bit. And they wanted actors, and I was not. But then they asked me, do you play any musical instrument? And I said, yeah, I play the guitar. And do you do any sports? Yeah. And so, okay. So, yeah, come to the, So they called me. I went to the workshop. And it was horrible. It was really horrible because, Catholic girl, take care of this community. And then suddenly I'm with actors, like students. Like really, very nice, very well trained. And it was improvisation the first day. And I was just crying in the corner. I had no idea. I was just like, oh my God, please God help me.
Did they encourage you to come back? Or were you like, I'm out of here, I'm not coming back?
I gave myself one more day because I talked to the guy with the American with a very little English. And I said, I'm sorry, but I don't act. And he said, well, tomorrow we're going to bring the puppets out. Let's see what happens. And what happened is that all the actors, they were really good physically and acting, but when they put the puppet was dead, and they couldn't,
Give
and
life
for me,
to the puppet.
yeah, at all. It was really interesting, and I didn't care, and I just suddenly, start realizing that it was a very interesting challenge, and with movement, I was able to get the puppet, some life. So then I started getting really intrigued. And they asked me to stay a little longer, but they were still not sure if I was good for the job until the third day that I grabbed a cow. I remember a huge head of a cow.
Not a real cow, a puppet cow.
No, a puppet
Ashley,
cow.
it was probably a puppet. I'm good.
It was a huge cow.
An actual cow.
You really were athletic.
Yeah.
So what was this job that you were auditioning for?
This job was huge, and I didn't realize that. They had already started pre-production for a primetime show, that it was a family show, that it was live every night. It was half an hour every day, and each day was a different game. But they had music guests, and the music guests were all celebrities, like Latino, Spanish and Mexican and Puerto Rican and Cuban and all the most famous singers and rock bands, Menudo, all these people were part of this show because they wanted it to make it big. And part of the show, there were some puppets because it was like a radio station. It started with a radio station and the puppets were the ones doing all this, but they didn't have anybody. Anyway, I had no idea that I was going to be doing this. It was interesting because from somebody that went from, I know exactly what I don't want to be because I have so much to do and I don't want to be stuck.
Yeah.
And I went to that.
So you kind of found the thing that you wanted to do because you didn't know up to that point until you found it.
The universe kind of sent me all these things, and I just, follow them. It
That's
was
awesome.
so cool, yeah.
But now then you
Wait, can we say what that show was now? Or-
What was the name of that show?
Well, that game show was called X, that is X, E, 2. Like the radio stations in the old days, they had like, I think they still, W, X, Y, whatever. So it was X2, yeah.
So
and it was a Mexican City show.
Mexico City.
Not just Mexico City, it was
Mexico.
The whole Mexico, Central, and South America.
Wow.
Wow.
Live how many days a week? Live 5 days a week?
Monday to Friday.
Wow.
God.
I did
So
that
that's cool.
For 5 years. I did that, Matt.
Wait, and so what was your character?
My character was a monster. The interesting thing here was that they didn't allow us to do the voices of our characters. And they had celebrity voiceover people. It was horrible.
Just the dynamic of it wasn't the best?
Well, especially with celebrities improvising. The guys were improvising, but to get the real...
You didn't know what they were going to say.
No.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
hard to
interesting.
lip sync
What
to
a-
something.
It's awful.
How did you? So now that you're a woman in Mexico with a job every day, how was this received with your family? Were they excited for you? Were they worried that you weren't going to find a husband, or like what were they? How was that?
I think all that.
All that.
No, you know what? My family was very supportive.
Yeah.
I think until now they have no idea what I do, but they love me. That I know.
Great.
So we'll skip. You did mention going to America and then coming back and forth from America to Mexico.
Yeah.
Now, why were you doing that?
In America was Sesame Street, right? And Sesame Street was great, but I was still a work in progress. I didn't know if I wanted it to stay. Jim passed away right away. I kind of observed for 2 seasons. He hired me, and then he died. So
That's Jim Henson. It was in 1990, right?
1990, yeah. So
that he died.
Then I was interested, but not that interested. The person that believed in me was not longer there.
Did you have a manager or an agent or something who had you audition for Sesame Street? Or how did you go from the show in Mexico to Sesame Street?
Well, because I was in puppets for television in Mexico, I was able to this guy, wonderful man from the team that Jim Henson had here called Kermit Love. And his real name was Kermit, went to Mexico to pre-productions for Plaza Sésamo, that is the Mexican Sesame Street.
Oh.
So I was able to meet him, and I showed him where I was working and how torturous it was, that nobody understood the art as it's supposed to be, and I wanted it to learn. Especially if we were going to start doing Plaza Sésamo, I thought maybe you don't need female puppeteers, but I would love to be part of it in some way. But he said, listen, we're going to start the season of Sesame Street. I think it was season 18. Like in a month, if you find yourself in New York, give me a call. You can come and visit us. So I actually went. I found myself in New York. And he told me, hey, listen, I'll let you in the studio the first day, but if you want to keep coming here, you have to ask John Stone and Jim Henson permission.
If you don't know who John Stone is.
John Stone, oh God, just the most wonderful, smart guy that created Sesame Street.
He really was like the heart and the humor.
Heart and soul, yes.
Of Sesame
I didn't know
Street.
this.
He wrote a lot of bits. He directed a lot of bits. He like the sensibility of the comedy. A lot of that was John Stone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously John Cooney, had the idea, but John Stone put the right people together.
Wow.
He brought Joe Raposo, Jim Henson, all the writers. He wanted it a neighborhood street. He put the name. I mean, everything. I
did not know that.
He, at that time that I start observing, he was directing and he was the main producer. He was great. So when I asked permission, he said, absolutely.
And then you started observing the show and watching how these puppeteers were doing their job, right? And you had met Jim Henson. And Jim, actually, you had a meeting with Jim, right? Where he kind of said, I want you to create a character.
Yeah, well, before that, they wanted it to see if I was in the level. And because I had hours and hours of puppeteering in Mexico, maybe wrong or bad, but at least I was able to walk into the center, say my name
Right.
as we train our puppeteers.
Right.
And so I had that week of a workshop that the group started getting smaller and smaller of like 150 people. I don't know how many. We were a lot. And at the end, it was Joey Mazzarino and myself. Who else was there? I think from our group, it was just Joey and myself. I don't know. But Joey and we came from that workshop.
Very cool.
But you know what? Looking back at that moment, I thought, wow, well, I'm glad that I didn't follow what everybody was following, right?
Yeah.
But they had the right to do that, but I just didn't. And I'm glad that I kind of did what I did.
Yeah.
And all these years later.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Nate. I was just saying, these years later, how long have you been on Sesame Street now?
So I was going to ask.
So my first season was season 20, and it's what? Season 50?
We finished 55, yeah.
So 35?
Wow.
Wait, is it season a year? Because a lot of times television isn't that anymore.
Sort of, but
Sort of 36? I don't know. But it was 80. So Jim passed away in 90. He hired me in 89. It took a year for me to be able to work. My work papers took forever. They have to put in the New York Times and the in all the main newspapers in the United States. The Jim Henson Company had to put that they needed a female puppeteer that spoke Spanish fluently with experience.
And so tell us, what is your character?
In Sesame Street, I'm Rosita.
Rosita.
And I did for a few years a little lamb that is called Ovejita. Well, Matt helped me a lot with that character.
Yeah.
He
And do you prefer doing your own voice now as opposed to having...
Oh, God, what a freedom. But you know what? I have to say that I probably had diarrhea for 3 days, for 3 years.
3 years. And did you see a doctor at all?
Maybe it was all those scrambled eggs.
No. But can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine with obviously I came here and I started taking acting classes and all that, but it was really scary in another language. And I never heard my voice in a puppet.
Oh.
So
that's so amazing and so awesome and wonderful. That it's just so great to hear this story of like how you fell into this career that seemed so well suited for you and sounds so rewarding for you as well. Yes.
And yes, absolutely. But not just that, somebody that it was so protected in a circle that, now my family is more open to, their times, obviously. And I was telling Matt the other day, I have nephews now that they're on the Mexican Broadway acting, and I have an opera singer cousin. So now everybody's doing whatever they want, not what the society was expecting from you, right?
You kicked open the door.
Yeah.
Maybe, I didn't think about that.
But it is interesting to see that in Mexico City, like that was just the way at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
That
well,
you were expected to fill a certain a role, and it
Yeah.
wasn't.
I mean, you talked about like how there was
Absolutely.
no that's what everyone did, right?
Yeah.
But now, like, but now you are a person for younger people to be in Mexico to be able to see and say, oh, no, not everyone has to do that thing because this is someone that came from where we come from doing something else.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like Ashley and hers started talking about imagination and what your imagination can conceive. And like you said yourself, like you didn't know what you wanted. You just didn't know you knew what you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
But you didn't have the imagination yet for what you could do, right? So it's so great.
I'm so glad that I listened to my instincts, right? Because
Yeah.
I knew that that I respect everything and that everything, it was fine the way it was, but I listened to me, and that I look like Olivia Newton-John with my shoulders showing and completely different than everybody. I didn't care, I thought like, well, this is me. And, you know.
Carmen, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
So
it.
nice to meet
That was
you.
amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing your
thank
story
you.
with us.
Well, thank you so much. You guys take care.
That's my friend Carmen. I've known her for 28 years or whatever, however long. I mean, it's a long time.
Was she
And
there before you or you were there
yeah,
before her?
Yeah, she was there before me, and she is truly remarkable. I mean, she is a brilliant performer, both as an actor and as a puppeteer. She's amazing, and her character Rosita, who is a Mexican Muppet, is this beautiful turquoise-colored monster, and she didn't really say much of this, but she kind of had a hand in designing what that character would look like, along with the Muppet designers and the writers and all the the Muppet folks and Sesame Street folks, and so she's just amazing.
It's also interesting, like, listening to all of your stories, and our guest was the most fascinating. I mean, they're all fascinating, but hers was so amazing that it was all sort of like just a path was laid before her that she
didn't have a choice.
She said yes to, and happened to have the talent that lended itself towards those things, and knew what she didn't want to do, and like really. So I love that story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's like I always thought like I remember like having like after my freshman year of college, like having a conversation with my dad, because I never had like those examples, right? Not her, but like you guys talked about the kids that you knew that went to Webster, and you for the first time learning, oh, this is a thing you could actually do. Like I had fantasies of being on Saturday Night Live, like John Belushi did, or becoming a famous artist. Like there was no path to that, right? And I didn't know what a path would be to like I knew like what John Belushi did. He went to Northwestern, and then he did Second City, and he was in Chicago, and he lived in Chicago, and like so I was like I remember like after my freshman year of college, like not doing well, and realizing that I didn't want to do the work I needed to do to go get into journalism or whatever, because I couldn't even take a journalism class until my junior year at Kansas, and I was just like so bored, and like I was like, let's party, I guess is what I can do here. I don't know what else to do, and I didn't have any money.
When in doubt, just party.
I didn't have any money, and so like I having to talk with my dad. I was like, well, what did you think you were going to do? Or like it's like I just thought I was going to get discovered. Like that was like I don't know how else does it work. Like you just get discovered. I don't know what the formula is on how to do these things, and I think like for a non-traditional career path, like
that kind of was Carmen's story.
Yeah,
Kind of,
yeah.
But like now, there are all these ways that you can
For sure.
learn about things and understand. I don't think there's any real one path to anything. I
No,
think there's multiple ways to do
But
things.
I think there are formulas that seem to work better than I'll just get discovered.
But even to
Right.
but even to this day, I don't know at the time that I like graduated from college or whatever, or even before I went into college. I don't know, like if I was like, you know what, I know what I want to do. I'm so sure I want to be a writer on SNL, or I want to be a performer on SNL. I, to this day, do not know what I would have done other than go to Harvard to like what I would do now. That's very clear. at the time from back then, I don't know how I would have figured out the things to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what would have been the resource I would have gone to figure that out.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
nowadays
I
you
literally
might
don't
take
know.
You may now go like, well, I'll just do my audition and put it up on TikTok or something.
Yeah.
It keeps
make
changing,
people
yeah.
see me, or
Well, before at one point it was like go to the improv theaters and specifically UCB or Second City
Yeah.
and
Maybe
then
Luck
like,
Out.
but now it's like
Groundlings.
maybe that's some of that's true as still, but now
like
there's this TikTok thing.
Jay Farrow 100% was a YouTube video of he lived in Florida or something, I think, and was just putting impressions on YouTube, and they found that video.
Yeah.
Discover me.
Well,
I mean, that's kind of what that was. It's just
That's what it
discover me.
was.
I do think there's a recipe for success that I never understood.
Same.
And I think, Matt, you are a great example of it in that, you've worked hard. And I mean, and you've been lucky. And part of that luck is just like who you are, like your talents, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
and
I mean, I can't
acknowledge
explain why some people are talented at some things and people aren't, and
there's-
it's like how you were raised and what your natural gifts are, whatever. Like that's some luck involved there, but it's also about working hard. And then the other part of it, I think, that's like just being a nice, good person that people are cool with working with. You know what I mean? Because it's like no one wants to hire you to be in their thing if they don't like hanging out with you.
And we have a program at Sesame Street that I run and kind of created, and it's a mentorship program for potential Muppet performers in the future. And like one of the things that I say, like one of the most important things to me, you can be a great puppeteer, you can be an amazing actor, but you really do need to be a nice person. Nobody wants to work with a jerk, and so
that's a famous line in Bossy Pants, Tina Fey's book. A way that she would use to gauge if she wanted to hire someone. One of the big pieces was, would I be okay running into this person at midnight after like a day of being on set all day? And like, is this going to be a person I'm like, oh God, I got to deal with this guy after this? And I'm like, that's a thing, you know?
Yeah, it is.
It's interesting. And I think for a lot of people, and I think some people are so talented, maybe they manage to succeed without that part of it. Or so lucky
That's
or
definitely
talented.
been true historically. I think that is becoming less and less true, honestly.
I think so, yeah.
And some people are just, again, the luck part is like their parents are
Nepo baby much?
the Nepo baby stuff. But I also think like part of that too is just having the example, and our guest was a perfect, like she became the example for all of those after her. She had no example. So she had to, like, luck was a big part of it for her. And just knowing sort of like what she didn't want to do was so helpful to like lead her towards something she did want to do.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have someone like
to do it. So I was saying, when she realized she wanted to do that, that was her focus. Like that. Yeah. She came back and forth to Mexico and New York City to watch for 2 years. Like,
and ate nothing but scrambled eggs. I mean, that's sacrifice. That's called sacrifice.
It really is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And that's why she had diarrhea for 3 years.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think we come back in 30 years and we do this episode again and see if you're the only one who's still alive, they'll just
you'll do it and like
you put up some cardboard cutouts of
I'm the oldest one here. If anybody's gonna go, it's probably gonna be me first, right?
You seem in the best shape though.
I don't know about that. All right, so it's a deal. We're gonna come back here in 30 years.
Yeah.
And if none of us are married yet, we'll all marry each other.
Wait, what?
Perfect. So it's time to pick the next topic. Who's? Oh, it's.
I think it's my turn to host.
Yeah. Okay, we found the magical fanny pack.
All right.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. That blank I loved but kept secret from everyone until now.
What?
Until now.
That blank I love. But
interesting.
From everyone till now. Gotta write that.
So I guess it could be like a song, a movie, a actor, anything. Yeah, an animal.
Murder.
Sure.
Whoa.
Murdering people.
That's it.
All right, well, we'll do that one next time on Solve for Gen X.
Sponsored by Cheez-Its.
Are those, what kind of Cheez-Its are those?
They're reduced fat, but he has been getting the extra toasted.
That's what I was going to say, those extra toasted.
Have you had the extra cheesy?
No. Wait, are they like the powdered like?
It is a powder, yeah.
I don't think I'd
but
like
they're so good, and what I think is the missing link is to do an extra toasted, extra cheesy.
Here's my thing.
Might be my jam.
Here's my thing, Cheez-Its. Listen to this.
Yeah.
If you can make them extra toasty and extra cheesy, what are you wasting your time? What are you wasting all of our time for with this bullshit? I understand the reduced fat one.
Sure,
I understand that. But the original?
We don't want
No
that.
one's interested in your original crap.
That's right.
We want the extra
toasty,
toasty, extra cheesy. It's like, we figured out how to make this product much, much better.
It's like leave the original to Cheese Nips.
Yeah.
Which is a real name of a cheese cracker product, and no one knows why. Like, I'm like, whose nips are these based on? Little square, pale nips.
I really hope we didn't squander our opportunity to get an ad with Cheez-Its right there.
We may have.
Cheez-It, no publicity is bad publicity. That's Cheez-Its philosophy.
Special thanks to Carmen Osbahr for being on the show today.
Solve for Gen X is mixed and edited by Nate Starkey.
The theme song was written by Nate Starkey and Matt Vogel and performed by the Mighty Weaklings.
Our podcast art was created by Dave Hulteen at davehulteendesign.com.
You can find Solve for Gen X wherever you listen to podcasts.
And it's also available to watch on YouTube.
Just search Solve for Gen X.
If you're so inclined, please rate and review our show. It really helps our visibility.
Or whatever.
Whatever.
Solve for Gen X is a Welcome Matt and Married Nate and Ashley production.